Today we're going to be taking a look at the new LEGO Star Wars UCS X-Wing Starfighter. This is the third iteration of the UCS X-Wing LEGO has made. The last one released 10 years ago in 2013, and the first one released 13 years before that in the year 2000. This set just released on May 4th or May 1st for VIP members of this year, 2023. It includes two minifigures, that being Luke Skywalker and R2-D2. It has 1,949 pieces and it retails for $240. And yes, that does sound pretty overpriced, especially compared to the last UCS X-Wing, which was $200, but more on that later in the video. Taking a look at the front of the box here, I actually think it does look very nice. I know that in my initial thoughts video, I did say the box art did look a little bit goofy, almost like a concept art, but seeing it in person, it does look very nice and very appealing. Also, the position of the X-Wing on the box and the stars in the background are actually a nod to the very first UCS X-Wing that came out in 2000, which had stars in the background and a similar position. Also, something you might notice on my box, if you look up at the top left corner, there is a pretty bad crease up there. I remember when it arrived at my house, the shipping box had a crease up the top right corner, so obviously I knew that the LEGO box was going to have a crease in it as well, and I was pretty disappointed. And flipping it around to the back here, you can still see that the crease is pretty prevalent. But excluding the crease, the back of the box does look pretty good. You have a big nice display of this set, and then at the bottom you also have some other pictures. You have a picture of the source material, which is just a real X-Wing, and then you have sort of a blueprint that is showing the dimensions of the build, and then you have a rear facing view of the model on its stand showcasing the engines, and then you have some pictures showcasing the features, including where R2-D2 goes on the ship and the cockpit. And then on the top of the box you have some writing that I believe is in French. I'm not going to try to pronounce that though. And then on the left side you can still see that crease that I was talking about earlier. And then on the left side of the box you get a nice little rendering of the X-Wing, and then on the right side you have some writing in Spanish, and then on the bottom of the box there is nothing to see. And then opening up the box, you're going to find some loose pieces and then bags numbered all the way up to 10, although there are a lot of bags that have duplicate numbers, so there's actually a total of around 15 bags. And in one bag, LEGO actually gave me the wrong piece, but more on that in a second. And then you have the instructions in this nice cardboard casing that keeps them from getting creased, and the two loose pieces I mentioned earlier are going to be your windshield piece and the plaque. So back to how LEGO gave me the wrong piece. As you can see here, I'm holding a 1x8 gray tile in my hands, and if you look on the instructions here, you can clearly see that it calls for a 1x6 gray tile. And as you can see here, a 1x6 gray tile is nowhere to be found. All I have is this 1x8. So then I looked through the instructions to see if any other steps called for a 1x8 tile in this bag, and surprisingly none of them did. So LEGO really just gave me the wrong piece that is supposed to go on this tile behind the wing. And as you can see here, the piece is just a little too long and it actually blocks the wing mechanism from opening. So now I have to sit it on here like this, and it looks kind of lopsided. So that was very disappointing, and it was in one of the earlier bags too. So obviously throughout the rest of the build I was kind of paranoid that I had missing pieces or the wrong pieces. But missing pieces aside, here are the instructions, and in the first few pages you have your typical UCS set reading. Basically you just have some information about the actual X-Wing and Star Wars and how they made the model. You can pause and read it if you want to. I did think it was a pretty interesting and fun read. And then you have some information about the designers, and actually the designer who designed the original UCS X-Wing back in 2000. And then you have this picture here, which I guess is showing you how to hold the set and that it can sit down on a table, which is actually pretty useful because there are some pieces on here that are pretty fragile, so if you hold it in the wrong way they will fall off. And then after this you're just going to have your normal LEGO instructions. And one thing that I think is pretty interesting about this, if you see, there is that little stud down there in the bottom left corner, and then this bar that kind of goes all the way across the page, and it's basically just marking your progress and how far you've come along in building the set. And moving on to our minifigures, first up we have Luke Skywalker. I mean, this really is the highest tier of LEGO Star Wars minifigures that you can get. He's got dual molded legs and lots of detail on his torso and chest, and he's also got printed arms. And then moving on to the back view here, you can still see there is just a lot of detail, and you can also see the printing on the other arm. And then as we take his helmet off, he does have two heads. The first one is with his visor down, and the second one is with his visor up. And I sort of have mixed feelings about LEGO deciding to print the visor onto his head, as in the helmets on the 2018 X-Wing actually had the visor molded into the helmet, and in my opinion I think that looks much better, and I kind of wish they could have done it on this set and sort of updated it a little bit. But nevertheless, it's not that big of a deal, as the minifigure does still look very good. And obviously you can place him on the plaque with his lightsaber. And then next up we have R2-D2 here. There's not a whole lot to see. It's really just the R2-D2 we've gotten for many years, except this time he does have back printing, which does look pretty nice. I hope LEGO continues to do this on all of the new R2-D2 minifigures. Now moving on to the actual build, there is one thing I want to cover before I talk about anything else with this model, and that is there is one major flaw I found in this build, and it's very frustrating, and I really haven't found a great solution for it yet. So as you can see here, as I sit the model on the stand and and I lift my hand up to stop assisting the weight, you can see that the model is so heavy that it falls down onto the stand and it pushes this piece at the top upwards and makes it come loose. And this interferes with the wing mechanism and makes the wings close halfway. And as you can see here is a more close-up shot of this happening. And this honestly is just unacceptable from LEGO, especially for this being a $240 18 and up set that is meant to be for adults and meant to be put on display. The fact that they didn't catch this small flaw is very disappointing. I don't know if anyone else has this issue. I haven't seen anyone else with this issue. If you already own this set, please let me know in the comments if you have this issue or not. And I am taking into account that I might have built the model wrong or followed the instructions wrong, but I'm 99% sure that I didn't, that this is just a flaw on LEGO's end, because I have looked inside the model to see if there's any different ways it could have been built so I could catch any of my flaws, and there really isn't another way for this to be built because right behind this piece is some vertical Technic pins. So this really is just disappointing, although I have found a kind of decent solution to this, although it takes away the function of being able to put R2-D2 inside the ship. So as you can see here, R2-D2 is supposed to go behind the cockpit, and I know that most people probably wouldn't even do this because it doesn't look very good because he is quite small. I do agree with people's statements that they should have included a dome piece with just a printed R2-D2 head instead of an actual figure, but that is beside the point. R2-D2 goes right here, and as you can see inside there's just one little stud that holds him into place. Is if you get two 2x2 bricks, I just got some old white ones, and you stack them up and then put a 2x4 plate on top, and then you sit it down in there where R2-D2 goes. It holds down by one stud, but it works, and then you get whatever type of flat plates or tiles you want. I have a gray tile and a white 1x2, and you basically just connect the plate to the piece that pops up, and this works most of the time, although there have been a few times when this doesn't even work and all of this pops up at once. But if you have these pieces available, which I assume most of you do, this is really the only solution I've found. If anyone has a better solution, please let me know in the comments. But once you had that figured out, it does look absolutely incredible on display. As you can see here, there is this knob on the back, and you just turn that and the wings will open and they will actually lock into place. And then to close the wings, you just keep on twisting it and they will close back. And I'm gonna be honest, it does look absolutely amazing, and I love how the wings open up wider than the previous models. I know people were complaining that the wings open too far, but actually they don't. They open just right, and it looks very accurate to the source material, and it looks very impressive. Now, if you have the wings closed, there are some noticeable gaps between the wings and the actual body of the ship. This is a little bit annoying when the wings are closed, but I honestly would just keep the wings open because it looks much better on display that way anyways. And also with the wings closed, you can see that they do sag, especially that one on the left. But again, that's not that big of a deal because most people will just display it with the wings open. Now, the stand is designed to where the model can actually be placed and displayed in different positions. For me, the side position where it's angled down is my favorite because it kind of represents the Death Star trench run, and it just looks absolutely amazing on display. As you can see here, I'm really happy that LEGO designed the stand to where you can display it however you please. And then you can see with the wing here how it just barely hovers over the ground. I think that looks really nice and really satisfying, and it really does give off the effect that it is swooping down into the Death Star trench or just swooping over the ground. Now, don't get me wrong, I think displaying it forwards and facing upwards looks great as well. I just think displaying it at this angle really gives off a dramatic effect. Now, actually breaking the model down, taking a look at the snout and the nose here, you can see that there are some tan tiles on top to give a little bit of that rugged detail. Now, taking a look at the nose here, I do wish that LEGO made the nose gray because on actual X-Wings, the color of the noses are clearly darker than the rest of the ship, but it doesn't really take away that much. And as for the shape of the nose goes, it's actually not as bad as it looked in the official reveal photos. The angles actually are pretty good, and I think they captured the roundness as best as they could, and it does fade in really nicely with the rest of the snout. Now, one thing that is included in the nose, I did mention this in my initial thoughts video, and that is that there is actually that square divot on top. This is the only X-Wing LEGO has ever made to have this. If you look at pictures of a real X-Wing, there is a little square divot right on the tip of the nose, and LEGO actually went the extra mile to include that in this X-Wing, and I'm really happy with that. And taking a look at the right side of the ship's snout, there's not much to see here, just some red stripes, and the left side is exactly the same. I wish there was a way for LEGO to include the rustic beat up look of X-Wings, but really if they mixed in gray, there'd be too much contrast, and I doubt LEGO would make a whole new color just for one set. Looking straight down on the model, you can see that the snout slopes into a point towards the nose, and I think that looks really good and really sleek. And also, if you look at it straight on, they do capture the hexagon shape of the snout perfectly. And again, like I mentioned in my initial thoughts video, this is the only LEGO X-Wing to actually include this shape in the snout, besides ironically the 1999 version. So I'm really happy they're finally starting to get the shape down. Moving on to the cockpit, the windshield is printed finally. As most of you probably know, the 2013 UCS X-Wing had stickers on the windshield, and you basically had to apply them perfectly or it just looked weird. So I'm really happy that this one is printed. And also at the front of the cockpit, there is a big square sticker right there, which adds a good amount of detail, which is kind of just give or take. I feel like most stickers inside cockpits aren't that bad. And then inside the cockpit, you can see that the seat does look really nice. And then there is the targeting computer right here, which is retractable. You can move it in and out, and you can also move it up and down. And I think that is a really nice feature. And then also there is another sticker here, which I don't really mind again. And then right under that, there is a control stick that you can move up and down. And as you can probably tell, the Luke Skywalker minifigure is not meant to go inside of this cockpit, as there are no studs anywhere, and it is clearly oversized. And then moving on behind the cockpit, you can see that there is a nice amount of greebling. Not too much, not too little, just the perfect amount to give enough detail. And also the wings and the engines do look really nice too. Now, I do think the wings maybe could have been a stud or two longer, maybe not even two studs, maybe just one stud longer. I think they're just barely too short, but it barely takes away from it. Like, it's not even really noticeable. And then on each wing, you can see the 5 red pieces to represent red 5. And both of the wings are different. The left one has some more white pieces on it, and the right one has some more gray pieces on it, again, just to give it that more rustic detail to make it look like a beat up X-wing. And then the bottom left wing here has a sticker that has some stripes on it. And I think these stickers do add a decent amount of detail down here, although it kind of makes it look weird, as this is a tile piece and the rest of it is just inverted studs. I honestly wish they could have just used inverted tiles to tile off the whole underside of each wing. And then on the other side, there is another sticker here, and this one I sort of messed up putting on, as you can see here, because these stickers are slightly smaller than the actual tile, so it is pretty easy to mess it up. And then moving down towards the very back, you can see that there is some more greebling and detail back here. Again, I think it looks great, not too much, not too little, just a perfect amount, and some pretty nice techniques in here too. And then as you can see, the back thrusters look really nice too. They have some inverted 1x2 handle pieces clipped onto there to represent the fins, and I think that detail is very nice. And then also the front of the engines, or the air intakes, also look very nice as well. I do like how one engine is tan and the other one is completely white, again, just giving that rustic detail. And also those tiles inside the engines, I don't know if that'd be an illegal building technique, because they're really just wedged in there between two studs, but nevertheless it does look really good. And then moving on to the blasters here, you can see the technique with the diver fins, which I think looks really good. People are hating on this, but I think it looks great. And also the blasters are different. The bottom left one has some stripes on it, and then the top left one is just all white. And then again for the other side, but reverse, the top right one has some stripes on it, and the bottom right one is all white. Now I do have to say, I'm really pleased with this set, besides that major flaw that I talked about earlier, because that's just such a disappointment. I really hope it was just a mistake on my end and I just built the set wrong, because I really hope that no one else has to deal with that like I did, because it is just so frustrating to have the wings close every time and that piece pop off every time. But obviously, once I did find a solution and fix it, it just looks incredible on display. And then of course you have my little missing piece incident from the beginning of the video, but don't worry about that, because that is a very rare occurrence, and it most definitely will probably not happen to you if you decide to get this set. I mean, this is just a 10 out of 10 display piece no matter what position you put it in. Again, I think putting it down on the side looks the best, although facing it forwards does look amazing too. I think this is by far the best X-Wing Legos ever made, and clearly the best UCS X-Wing Legos ever made. Everything I said in my video where I said you guys need to stop hating on this set still stands, and I'm just really happy with how it looks. Now, the main question is the value worth it? And this might surprise you a little bit, but this actually does have a better value than the 2013 X-Wing did. That set has 1,559 pieces, and it retailed for $200, making its price per piece 12.8 cents, and it only included an R2-D2 minifigure, no Luke Skywalker minifigure. And this X-Wing has 1,949 pieces and is $240, making its price per piece 12.3 cents. So there's just a 0.5 cent difference, but it is a big deal considering there were so many people saying that this was too overpriced. And then for the cherry on top, it does include that amazing Luke Skywalker minifigure along with the new R2-D2. So yes, I think the value is completely worth it, especially compared to the 2013 version. And if you want a UCS X-Wing, this is clearly the way to go, as the 2013 version is now going for around $400 now, and it doesn't even look as good as this one. So if you are a Lego fan, this is a pretty fun build, and if you're a diehard Star Wars fan, this also looks great on display. If you didn't buy it in between May 1st and May 4th for double VIP points and you're willing to wait, really your best bet is to wait until later in the summer when people are selling it for below retail on third-party websites like eBay or Bricklink. I mean, I'm pretty sure people on Bricklink are already selling it for below retail, so that's probably the way to go if you want this set to build it or if you want it for an investment. But if you don't want to wait, you might as well go ahead and buy it off of the Lego store right now.